All right, so I think the last thing we're going to do today is we're going to start creating a joystick. So before we do that, I want to introduce you to a concept. How many of you understand the concept of a variable? Okay. What is a variable?
Something that you make, a number.
A number, something you make,
You can store information in it.
store information in it. So one of those definitions I heard is the math definition of a variable, which is not what it is in programming. So in programming, a variable is not a number, unfortunately. When you think about a computer, it has this thing in it called memory. You might also hear it called RAM. And that memory is organized in a logical manner. It's in usually some kind of a grid system, right? But it's chunks of memory, chunks of empty space. Say again? Just like a brain, right? Sometimes there's nothing in it. We talk about the CPU as being like the computer when it's thinking, but the memory is where it's really holding its thoughts, right? Holding its ideas. If you need a piece of data, like the number 7, and you want to store that somewhere, you can take it and you can put it in one of these little boxes in the memory. But the question becomes, well, how do you get it back later? You have to know exactly where you put it, right? That can be tedious. And so what a variable does, a variable actually just takes one of these boxes and gives it a name. And so that's all it is. A variable is just a place in the memory that has a name. But there's actually more to it than that, because every piece of data has a different shape. The number 7, for example, looks different than the number 3.141. They take up different amounts of space, different capacities. Those look different than, say, the value true. And those also look different than the value hello world as text, right? Those all look different. 7 is maybe a box. 3114 is maybe a rectangle. True could be a triangle. Hello world could be something a little bit more blobby. Then there's also this thing called robot that we've been talking about, this robot class, right? Well, maybe the robot looks a little bit weirder, a different shape. All that to say is, a variable is not just a place in memory that you can put data. It has a shape. So that when you create a variable, when you create a place in memory, what you're actually doing is you're saying, hey, I'm going to take these boxes and put them into a variable. So that's a variable that I can put something that fits that shape. Kinda, yeah. Because every piece of data has a different shape, and only pieces of data that have the same shape can fit in the same variable.
Your brain is playing Tetris. You're just giving it the pieces.
Yeah. So in WPILib, there is this class, right? This class called joystick. And if I were to create a variable to hold a joystick, well, it had better have the shape of whatever a joystick is. So when you declare a variable, when you say, hey, I need a variable, I need somewhere to hold something, you have to say the type and then the name. So if I wanted to create a variable, let's call it my joystick. Its name is my joystick. I have to say what the type is. I have to say, hey, what shape is that box? Well, what type is a joystick? It's a joystick. And so this is how we say, hey, I need a place in memory that is the shape of a joystick that I'm going to call my joystick. And that means from now on, whenever I say, hey, I need my joystick, Java says, oh, I know exactly where I put that. It's over here. That's where you're telling me to go. So if I were to switch back over here, I'm going to go, and if you want to follow along with this one, you can. Go to the line where that semicolon, that the curly brace is, and go to a new line after it. Make sure you're not before the curly brace. I'm going to create a variable called joystick, and I'm not going to type the whole word out. I'm just going to type part of it. Because when I type out part of it, you should get this little menu pop up. Are y'all getting a menu kind of like this one? And if you look, you'll see there's joystick, joystick button, joystick sim. If you use your arrow keys, you can actually move up and down through this list. Which one of these do we think we want? Probably joystick. Highlight that one and press enter. Now here's why we did it that way. Scroll up and look at line 7. How many imports do you have?
2.
You should now have 2 imports. By doing it this way, we automatically get the import. We don't have to figure out where is joystick so that we can import it. It does it for us. But I'm gonna get rid of my import. Don't do it to yours, just so you can see what happens if you don't have it. So I've got joystick, space. I'm gonna call it my joystick. And then I'm going to put a semicolon to finish that line. So yours should look somewhat like mine, but yours probably doesn't have the red line under joystick. You might have like a yellow line under my joystick, but you don't have a red line under joystick, right? So here's what to do if you get in this situation. Go up to the top of your file and delete the joystick import. So go ahead and do that to yours, and you'll get in the same state as mine. When you're in that state, yours now should look like mine if you deleted that line, right? You get that red line? Put your cursor inside the word joystick and press Control period. And you get a little bit of a helper window, right? First thing, import joystick. Press enter. It'll put the import back for you. Once you have that, you can click Control. You can do Control S and save it. So now I have a piece of memory named my joystick. What shape is it? It's the shape of a joystick, which means it can hold a joystick. Is there anything in the box? Why not? What did I do? I said, I need a box.
You didn't say you wanted to put something in it.
Correct. When you write code like this, you are saying, hey, give me a box, give it this name so I can get back to it, but don't put anything in it. And that's where we're going to stop today. And the next time we will start looking at putting things into the box.